Swiss chard has got to be the easiest leafy green I have ever grown. I have very little problems with pest or disease, and it's beautiful in the garden. I like to buy the packs of seeds that say, Rainbow Brights or Ruby, because you get that nice pop of color. But I've also grown just the regular green kind with the white rib that goes down through the center. Sometimes they have a smooth leaf, and sometimes they have a very crinkled leaf. So not only is this easy to grow and beautiful, but it's also very nutritious. In a recent study, it came in number 3 for nutrient density. And so I use this a lot of times in recipes where I might use kale or spinach. So let me show you how we're going to do this. Now you can start these indoors if you like. I tend to start some indoors and some I direct sow into my square foot garden. And the range of temperature for your seeds to germinate is wide. So we have anywhere from 40 degrees up to 70 degrees Fahrenheit to get those seeds up. Unlike, spinach can be a little bit more picky. So this is an easy leafy green to germinate. And so I do start some indoors. If you missed that video to where I start mine indoors, I'll leave a link to it. You'll want to start those indoors about 7 weeks before your last spring frost and transplant them out into your square foot garden about 3 weeks before your last spring frost. And if you're not familiar with your frost date, I'll leave a link below the video which will guide you through that. Also, you can check out your square foot gardening book to get more information on Swiss chard. There's a whole section in there just on Swiss chard. Another nice thing about growing Swiss chard is that it does tolerate some shade. It only needs about 5 hours of sunlight each day. So if you have a little spot in your garden that does get a little bit of shade, this might be the perfect spot for it. My Swiss chard has grown all the way through the summer in a little bit of shade, and I enjoyed it all summer long. It grew best, though, in the cooler temperatures, and so your best temperatures for growing is when your soil is around 60 to 70 degrees Fahrenheit, and the air is between 45 and 70 degrees Fahrenheit. So this is really good for the spring and fall plantings. So let me show you how I'll plant this in the square foot garden. You can also, of course, plant by seed. I'm going to use transplants here, and let's go ahead and mark it off. I like to use little skewers. Of course, you can always have a grid on your square foot garden. I find it's easier for me to just mark these off with 12-inch skewers or a ruler. And I want to add 1 cup of compost. I'm always building the soil, so whenever we're planting something new, we'll go ahead and add a little compost to our soil. In Swiss chard, we plant 4 per square. Sometimes, though, I will just plant 1 or 2 throughout the square foot garden if there's a little space. So, but I did want to go ahead and demonstrate for you how you should plant these if you want to have a big crop of Swiss chard. So if you're planting by seed, you'll want to plant anywhere from 1/2 inch to 3/4 inch deep. And the seeds are kind of large, so they're easy to plant, almost as big as a pea seed. And then we'll go ahead and water them at the base here. I'm using a water bottle. However, if you're using seed, you'll want to use a watering can or use the shower setting on your hose nozzle. And this is just so you won't force the seed too far down into the soil. And here's an example where I'm harvesting it in July, in the middle of the summer. And you can harvest this almost at any stage. I'm still harvesting the same plant here in October. Now this is very mature, but you can begin to harvest it at about 50 to 60 days, and it'll be fine then. As a matter of fact, the baby greens are wonderful too. And one of the best things too is that it will survive a light freeze, and so I can grow this all the way up until the early winter, and then my spinach by that time is already growing all through the winter where I live. So one of my favorite ways to eat Swiss chard is just to gently cook the leaves in a little bit of chicken stock along with some onions and bacon, maybe a little white pepper or black pepper and some salt. And it's really good. Of course, you can always eat the ribs too. They're a little more tough, so you might want to cook those first. And you can use the Swiss chard leaves in just about any recipe that calls for kale or spinach. The Swiss chard leaves are a little bit more tough than the spinach. And there you go. So I hope that you can give it a try. And if you haven't already, make sure you've clicked that little bell off to the right of the subscribe button, and you'll receive all notifications from my channel. Thank you so much for watching, and y'all have a beautiful day.